Emily work has a cute coffee shop, and Hunter always comes there just to see her and meet her because he's in love with her, and she can notice that all the time. Today she was working, but a little tired and sick, but she continues smiling in front of the costumers, try to act normal. She raised her head when she noticed him entering her coffee shop as always, and he can see that she's not fine. Hunter walked inside and saw her standing behind the counter, looking tired and a little under the weather. He made his way over to the counter, concern etched on his face. "Hey, Emily," he said, his voice gentle. "You don't look too good. Are you feeling okay?" He couldn't help but notice the slight droop in her shoulders and the pallor of her usually vibrant complexion. Emily forced a smile, trying to brush off his concern. "I'm fine, really," she replied, her voice slightly strained. "Just a little tired, that's all." She knew that she was putting up a front, but she didn't want to worry him. Hunter's expression remained worried. "Are you sure? You don't look well at all." He leaned against the counter, his gaze fixed on her. "Maybe you should go home and rest. Your health is more important than work." Emily shook her head stubbornly. "No, I can't go home. We're short-staffed today, and there's a lot to do." She tried to hide a small cough, but it betrayed her true state. "I'll be fine. I just need to keep busy." Hunter frowned, not convinced by her insistence. "You don't look fine, Emily. You look like you're about to collapse. You should really go home and rest." He reached out and gently touched her forehead, feeling the heat radiating from her skin. Emily closed her eyes, leaning into his touch for a moment before pulling away. She knew he was right, but she didn't want to admit it. "I can handle it," she said firmly, though her voice was a bit shaky. "I just need to get through the day." Hunter watched her for a moment, his heart heavy with concern. "You're stubborn, you know that," he said, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Emily chuckled weakly. "Yeah, I've been told that a few times." She tried to straighten up and look more energetic, but her body protested with a wave of dizziness. She quickly grabbed onto the counter to steady herself. Hunter's concern deepened. "That's it," he said firmly. "You need to go home now. I'm not going to let you push yourself until you collapse." He gently took her arm, intending to guide her away from the counter. Emily protested weakly, but she knew that she couldn't argue with him. Her body was telling her the same thing, but her stubborn nature wouldn't let her admit defeat. Okay, she relented, her voice still weak. "I'll go home, but only because you're being so annoyingly persistent." Hunter chuckled lightly, relieved that she was finally giving in. "Well, I'm known for my persistence," he teased gently, leading her towards the door. As they walked towards the door, Emily couldn't help but feel a wave of gratitude towards Hunter. Despite her stubbornness, he genuinely cared for her well-being and wasn't afraid to push her to take care of herself. It was touching and frustrating at the same time. Once they were outside, the cool air hit Emily's face, and a shiver ran down her spine. She unconsciously rubbed her arms, trying to generate some warmth. Hunter noticed her shivering and immediately removed his jacket, draping it over her shoulders. "Here, take this," he said, gently wrapping the jacket around her. "It'll keep you warm." Emily was taken aback by his thoughtfulness, but she didn't protest. The warmth of his jacket felt comforting, and she found herself snuggling into it, relishing the feeling of his closeness even in this small gesture. They walked silently for a few moments before Emily spoke up, her voice still slightly wobbly due to the sickness. "You don't have to do this, you know," she said softly. "I can take care of myself." Hunter smiled softly, his eyes never leaving her face. "I know you can, but sometimes it's okay to let someone take care of you too. You don't have to be strong all the time. Emily knew he was right, but she had always prided herself on her independence and self-sufficiency. It was hard for her to accept help, even when she knew she needed it. "I've just always been used to taking care of myself," she murmured, her tone slightly defensive. "It's hard to let go of that." Hunter nodded, understanding her stubbornness all too well. "I get it," he said reassuringly. "But being independent doesn't mean you have to do everything alone. You're allowed to accept help when you need it. You don't have to prove anything to anyone." Emily went silent for a moment, contemplating his words. She knew he was right, but it was hard to shake off the habit of being fiercely independent. They continued walking, and Emily found herself enjoying the silence and the feeling of his jacket wrapped around her. It was oddly comforting, knowing that he cared enough to look out for her, even if she wasn't used to relying on anyone. As they approached her apartment building, Emily turned to him, her voice still strained by the sickness. "Thank you," she said softly, "for making me go home and for taking care of me." Hunter's expression softened further as he looked at her. "Of course," he said, his voice warm. "I care about you, Emily. I don't want to see you pushing yourself like that. You need rest and someone to take care of you right now." They reached her apartment building's entrance, and Hunter turned to face her, the concern still evident in his eyes. "Promise me you'll take care of yourself, okay? No more stubborn self-reliance." Emily couldn't help but chuckle weakly at his words. All right, she said, a hint of resignation in her voice. "I'll try to take care of myself. No more trying to be the strong, independent coffee shop owner for a while." Hunter smiled, satisfied with her agreement. "Good," he said, giving her arm a gentle squeeze. "Rest and recover. I'll check on you later." Emily nodded, a wave of gratitude washing over her. She knew she had a tendency to forget about herself when things got hectic, and Hunter was right. She needed to take better care of herself. As she made her way inside her building, she couldn't help but think about how different it felt to have someone genuinely care for her well-being. Hunter watched her leave, his heart a bit heavier than before. He was relieved that she had agreed to take better care of herself, but he couldn't help but worry that she would push herself too hard and ignore her health again. He knew she was stubborn, but he didn't want to see her suffer just because she was too proud to ask for help. Over the next few days, Hunter checked in on Emily regularly, bringing her food and supplies she needed. He knew she was a bit annoyed at him for being so persistent, but he didn't mind. He wanted to make sure she was recovering properly and not overworking herself. Emily, on the other hand, found herself feeling both annoyed and grateful for his attention. She wasn't used to having someone take care of her, and it felt both disconcerting and strangely comforting. One evening, as Hunter was bringing her some soup, he found her curled up on the couch, surrounded by pillows and tissues. She looked pale and exhausted, but still as beautiful as ever. "Hey," he said softly, sitting down next to her. "How are you feeling?" Emily sighed, closing her eyes for a moment. "Tired and gross," she muttered. "I hate being sick." Hunter chuckled softly, setting the soup on the table. "Yeah, being sick sucks. But at least you're resting and taking care of yourself, right?" Emily rolled her eyes, but there was a hint of a smile on her face. "Ugh, you're so pedantic. Yes, I'm resting and taking care of myself. Happy now?" He grinned, amused by her stubbornness even in her weakened state. "Very happy. Just wanted to make sure you weren't secretly working on your laptop or trying to bake bread or something." Emily gave him a half-hearted glare. "You know me too well, you jerk." Hanters chuckled, feeling a sense of relief that she was still her feisty self. It's hard not to when you're so predictably stubborn. He reached out and touched her forehead, checking her temperature. Emily leaned into his touch, her irritation fading a bit. Careful, I don't want you catching my cooties. I think I'll take my chances, he replied, his hand lingering on her forehead for a moment before he pulled back. You're still pretty warm, Emily groaned, sinking deeper into the couch. I just want to feel better already. Hunter smiled sympathetically. I know. Just hang in there a bit longer. You'll be back to your normal, stubborn self in no time. Emily tried to muster up a glare, but it was too exhausting. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Hunter chuckled again, his eyes sparkling with amusement. What, taking care of you? Of course I am. I always enjoy spending time with you, but this gives me an excuse to spoil you a little. She rolled her eyes, but a small smile played at the corner of her lips. You're insufferable. Hunter grinned, unbothered by her grumbling. I prefer to think of it as being irresistibly charming. More like irresistibly annoying, she retorted, swatting weakly at his arm. Hunter caught her hand in his touch gentle. Hey, be nice. I'm the one bringing you soup and keeping you company, remember? Emily huffed, trying to seem annoyed but failing. Yeah. I guess you're not completely useless. Hunter chuckled, amused by her feigned annoyance. Wow, high praise coming from you. Emily tried to pull her hand away, but he held it tighter, his fingers tracing circles on her palm. You know, I might have to charge you for my services, he teased, enjoying the banter between them. Emily raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah? And what's the going rate for being an annoyingly charming caretaker? Hunter pretended to think, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Let's see, I'd say at least one genuine smile per day, and a promise to take better care of yourself from now on. Emily mock scowled at him. That's ridiculous. You're asking for way too much. Hunter feigned offense. Hey, I'm a skilled caregiver. My services come at a premium. Emily couldn't hold back her smile any longer. Fine. I'll give you a smile and a promise. But that's all you're getting. Hunter grinned, clearly pleased with himself. Deal. And I'll throw in a free forehead checkup whenever you want. Emily groaned dramatically, but she was secretly pleased by his playful banter. You're impossible, you know that? I have a feeling you're going to be taking advantage of that free forehead checkup privilege. Hunter placed a hand over his heart, feigning shock. Me? Taking advantage of a privilege? I would never do such a thing, he said, trying to suppress a smile. Emily couldn't help but laugh. Oh, please, you're going to be checking my temperature every 5 minutes. Hunter's smile widened. Can you blame me? I want to make sure you're getting better. Plus, it gives me an excuse to spend more time with you. Emily tried to maintain her poker face, but she could feel her resistance crumbling. You're just determined to drive me crazy, aren't you? Hunter leaned back in his seat, a smug look on his face. What can I say? I enjoy getting a rise out of you. It's entertaining. Emily let out a mock groan. Oh, great. Now you'll be intentionally getting me riled up, just for your own amusement. Hunter chuckled, enjoying the playful banter. Guilty as charged. Besides, it's like a fun game to see how long you can resist before you give in and smile. Emily rolled her eyes, but inside she was secretly amused. You're insufferable. You know that, right? Hunter leaned in closer, his eyes twinkling. Insufferably charming, remember? And you're secretly enjoying this little back and forth as much as I am. Emily tried to look annoyed, but she couldn't help the small smile that tugged at her lips. I'll have you know, I am immune to your charms. Hunter raised an eyebrow, his eyes glinting with challenge. Is that so? 'Cause your smile would suggest otherwise. Emily quickly schooled her features, trying to look unimpressed. Please, that was just a reflex. It doesn't mean anything. Hunter chuckled, clearly amused by her denial. Ah, the classic it's nothing defense. But we both know the truth, don't we? Emily huffed, trying to maintain her composure, but she couldn't help but laugh a little. You're insufferable. I swear you take way too much pleasure in teasing me. Hunter smirked, leaning in closer to her. Of course I do. I enjoy seeing you get all riled up and flustered. Besides, it's cute when you try to deny how much you secretly like the banter between us. Emily's cheeks turned pink, and she quickly averted her gaze. Oh, please. You're so full of yourself. You just like the ego boost of thinking you can rile me up so easily. Hunter chuckled, pleased that he had, unsurprisingly, made her blush. Guilty as charged. But let's not pretend like you don't enjoy our little sparring matches. It keeps things interesting, doesn't it? Emily grumbled, but didn't disagree. Fine, I'll admit that it's somewhat entertaining. But don't get too cocky. I can still beat you in an argument any day. Hunter grinned, clearly enjoying the banter. Oh, I have no doubt about that. But let's be honest, it's even more entertaining when you lose. Emily huffed, but she was secretly amused. You're hopeless. I swear you're just determined to get a reaction out of me at all costs. Hunter shrugged, his eyes twinkling. What can I say? I'm a simple man with simple desires, and pissing you off is at the top of my list. Emily rolled her eyes, fighting back a smile. You're insufferable. Absolutely insufferable. Hunter's smile widened, enjoying her feigned irritation. Yet, you seem to keep me around for some reason. It's almost like you secretly enjoy our bickering. Emily tried to look annoyed but couldn't maintain the facade. Oh, shut up. I only put up with you because you bring me soup. Hunter chuckled, clearly amused by her attempts to downplay his presence. Is that so? So, the soup is the only reason you tolerate me, huh? Emily nodded, trying to look serious but failing as a small smile fought its way onto her face. Yep, the soup is the only reason I put up with your constant teasing. That's all. Hunter smirked, leaning in a bit closer. You're not fooling anyone, you know. The way your eyes dance whenever I tease you suggests otherwise. Emily blushed again, averting her gaze once more. Oh, please. You're reading way too much into it. I'm just naturally expressive, that's all. Hunter chuckled, enjoying the fact that he could so easily get a rise out of her. Oh, so now you're back to blaming it on your expressive nature? You really can't admit that you enjoy our banter, can you? Emily huffed, crossing her arms defiantly. Fine, maybe I find it a little amusing. Is that what you want to hear? But don't you dare let it get to your head. Hunter mock gasped. You're actually admitting that you enjoy our little banter? I'm honored. Emily rolled her eyes, trying to stay annoyed but finding it difficult. Ugh, you're impossible. I swear, one day I'm going to figure out a way to shut you up for good. Hunter's grin widened, clearly relishing the challenge. I'd like to see you try. You know, there's no stopping me from teasing you. It's like a natural reflex at this point. Emily let out a sigh, resigning herself to the fact that Hunter was right. You're a pain in the ass, you know that? Hunter simply chuckled, clearly unbothered by her insult. Oh, I know, but you love it. Admit it. Emily grumbled but didn't argue, her feigned annoyance fading with each passing moment. I don't love it. I tolerate it. There's a difference. Hunter just laughed, clearly amused. Sure, sure. Keep telling yourself that. But deep down, you know you can't resist my charm. As Hunter continued to banter and playfully tease Emily, the atmosphere in the room shifted slightly. The tension between them grew palpable, and Emily could feel her heartbeat quicken in anticipation. Suddenly, Hunter leaned in closer, his eyes locked onto hers, his expression growing serious. You know, there's something I've been wanting to tell you for a long time now, he said, his voice quieter than before. Oh yeah? Emily tried to sound nonchalant, but her heart was pounding in her chest. She wasn't sure what to expect from him, and the anticipation was driving her crazy. Hunter took a deep breath, as if trying to steady himself. Yeah, and I'm not sure how you'll react, but I just have to get it off my chest. Emily felt her pulse quicken even further. Her curiosity piqued. She was suddenly anxious, but also oddly hopeful at the same time. What is it? Just say it. Hunter's gaze remained fixed upon her face, his expression filled with a mixture of nervousness and sincerity. I have feelings for you, Emily. Stronger feelings than I've ever had for anyone before. Emily's breath caught in her throat, her heart racing at his words. She had harbored feelings for Hunter for a long time, but had never gathered the courage to admit it. Hearing him confess his feelings so openly was both unexpected and exhilarating.